Most teams ship this accessibility bug every single week. And the worst part, the UI looks perfect. Let me prove it. These three buttons are visually self-explanatory: edit, delete, and share. But for a screen reader user, they are just button. That's it. And if this is what your interface sounds like, you're not building accessible applications. You are building noise. Today, we are talking about the single most important concept in Aria: name. Because if your elements don't have the right accessible name, they don't exist in a meaningful way. Now, if you have not watched part 1 of Aria for beginners yet, you're already behind. Because in this series, we are going deep. I will be breaking Aria into 3 focused episodes: name, role, and value. So you don't just use Aria, you master it. Every element on your website must answer one question: what is this thing called? That answer is the accessible name. It's the exact text that a screen reader announces. Because when a screen reader user taps to a button, they don't see it, they hear it. And here's the uncomfortable truth: if the name is not clear, the interface is not usable. No name, no meaning. Most developers and testers think, if I can see text, I'm fine. No. Screen readers don't read your screen, they read the accessibility tree. And the accessibility tree does not guess, it calculates. If that calculation fails, users hear button, edit text, or link. And imagine navigating a checkout flow like that. Your confidence drops, trust drops, and your users abandon your website. Accessible naming is not cosmetic, it's structural. Here's where most teams get this wrong. The accessible name does not magically appear. It follows a strict computation order. And if you don't understand the order, you are guessing. Let's break it down. Your visible text. Let me show what real accessibility looks like. That inner text in a button, that's it. No aria, no workaround, and no accessibility patch. Simply turn on a screen reader and it will announce delete button. Your delete is your accessible name. Clean, precise, and professional. That is not advanced, that is foundational. And this is where most teams skip ahead. They jump to aria. Accessibility experts know if your markup is correct, the browser already knows what to announce. Accessibility does not start with aria. It starts with honesty in your HTML. Now watch what happens when designs get cleaner. You end up creating icons instead of writing delete. Visually, it's a simple delete icon, elegant and obvious. To a sighted user, it screams delete, but for a screen reader, it's just a button. And that's it. No context, no intention, and no meaning, just button. And this is where we need aria, because we need to preserve the design without sacrificing meaning. We don't want to change the UI. We want to change what it sounds like. Using aria correctly, we can give this button a name without altering a single pixel. Now, by passing an aria label as delete item, your screen reader will read it as delete item button. Same aesthetics, but now it's meaningful. And this is where teams feel relieved because it sounds fixed. But here's the trap. And this is the mistake even experienced developers make. Aria label replaces the name. It does not add to it. It overrides it. So if you have an aria label which says remove iPhone 17, the user will not hear delete. They will hear the entire string, remove iPhone 17. And just like that, you didn't improve accessibility, you actually failed it. What if someone uses voice controls? They can't say delete anymore because you renamed it to remove. A perfect example of failing success criteria 253. And that's why the real question is not if you added aria label. It's if you added the aria label in a meaningful way. Because if the name is wrong, the interface becomes a guessing game. Stay with me. this next part is where most teams fail. Accessible name is not random. It follows a hierarchy and a strict one. And if you don't understand it, you're not controlling the output, you're gambling. And here's the practical way I approach it in real projects. For most standard elements, I follow this order of preference. Inner text first, use the right HTML semantic tags. Aria-label if necessary. Aria-labeled by as the last resort. Why? Because inner text is the right approach. It's visible, it's approved by design, and it's already in the DOM. If I can solve it with clean HTML, I stop there. If design constraint forces me to keep the UI minimal, then I carefully introduce aria-label. And only when neither of those options fit the use case, I move to aria-labelledby to reference existing content on the page. Now here's the important part. This is not a rigid formula. The accessible name computation can vary depending on the element and context. But if you don't understand precedence, you're not in control of what users hear. And when you are not in control, accessibility becomes accidental. Comment what will be announced when all three are present. Inner text, aria-label, and aria-labelledby on a button. Let's see who really understands the algorithm. Now there will be situations where adding aria-label does not make sense. In that case, reference what already exists. So for these product cards, we can use aria-labelledby. Now it will be read as iPhone 16 button. But this is still not useful because we are missing by keyword. And the professional way of doing this is by using aria-describedby. With this little change, your screen reader will read it as by iPhone 16 button. And here's the mistake I see all the time. And I mean all the time. People think aria-describedby gives an element its name. It does not. Let me say that again. Aria-describedby does not provide the accessible name. It only provides additional information. That's it. It's description, not identity. If you rely on aria-describedby to name a button, the screen reader will still announce button. Then maybe some extra text after it. But the name is still missing. Watch this video to explore the difference between aria-label, aria-labelledby, and aria-describedby in more details. If you are not testing accessible name manually, you are just guessing. And no, X is not enough. Let me show you how real developers and testers test this. First, stop looking at the UI. Open DevTools, go to the accessibility pane. Inspect three things: name, role, and value. If your name is empty, you have a real bug. I don't care if the button looks perfect. If the name is missing, it is broken. Secondly, use Andy. Andy will tell you immediately if an element has no accessible name. It exposes what your UI is hiding. And then turn on a screen reader. Tab through the elements. Listen. And if you hesitate even for a second, your user already lost confidence. I'm going to use the same page that we have used for our other demos. I'm going to right click, go to inspect, and under this, I have enabled the accessibility pane. And if you don't see it, click on this arrow and you will find the accessibility section. Here you will see the computed properties. And this is where I see the name for this particular menu item. Right now it's saying name, and it is deriving it from the inner text. Instead of using labels, aria-label or aria-labelledby, we are getting the name, the accessible name, from the login of the inner content or the inner text. And if I have to check this with Andy, let's trigger Andy right now. Under the focusable elements, I'll quickly go over login, mouse over the login. Look at the Andy output on the top left side. It says login. And this is how I will check for the accessible names for different elements on the page. And if I have to do it for eShop, you see eShop. If I have to go for the dropdown, it says select has no accessible name, associated label, or a title. This is how you know without even running a screen reader if accessible name was generated or not. Now let's do the same thing with our dev tools. I'm gonna right click. Let's go to inspect. There's already an error over here. A form field element should have an ID or name attribute. Let's look into the name. We have an empty name similar to what Andy has also pointed out. And the quick fix would be to add an aria label. So let's go into our code. Let's search for group by over here, and to this I will say aria-label equals to group by. I'm gonna save this, go back to our page. Now we have an accessible name. It says group by, and now it's also pointing out because of aria-label it's able to provide that accessible name. So this is how you test for different accessible names presence. One is using the dev tools. Secondly, you can make use of Andy. And as a last resort, you start your screen reader, ensuring that it is being read out correctly. Accessibility isn't about passing tools. It's about passing the real test. So next time when you write a component, don't ask, does this have aria? Ask, how will this sound? Because if it's not announced clearly, it might well not exist. And in the next episode, we are breaking down role. And I'll show you how misusing role can completely break your component and why that mistake is even harder to detect. This is Param Singh signing off.